Well, are there any pitfalls buyers should be aware of during the building process?
The number one thing that I see the buyer showing up to the job site, they make a comment such as, I don't want a square patio. I want some curves in it. I want it to look pretty. And they say, okay. And everybody walks away and nobody remembers. The biggest thing is putting something in writing. I think just following up with a short little email, however it is you communicate with your builder, that, hey, just a reminder, we talked about this. I do want this, because no one remembers.
Welcome to Lawrence Real and Local, Keeping It Real podcast presented to you by the Lawrence Board of Realtors. We're your go-to source for all things real estate in Lawrence, Kansas. I'm Lexie Haskin with Flint Mortgage.
And I'm Ragan with McGrew Real Estate. Together, we're here to make the journey to home ownership a breeze. Join us as we share insider insights, expert advice, and a dose of fun along the way.
Hello, welcome to Lawrence Real and Local, Keeping It Real podcast by the Lawrence Board of Realtors. I'm Lexie Haskin with Flint Mortgage.
And I'm Ragan with McGrew Real Estate.
And we're joined here with Slavens with Keller Williams Integrity. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes.
We're really excited to have you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, and today Joy is going to be diving into new construction and the process and what that looks like for homeowners and various people along the way. So,
I mean, I will say that it is a lot of people's dream to build a home, or at least go through that process, or have something that even might feel more customized to them too. And so I think this is a good topic.
yeah.
It's a fun industry to be part of, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So do you want to give us some background on you? And then also, I mean, you're new construction.
So I got into real estate 25 years ago, and I got in because my husband was a builder, and so he wanted somebody to sell his homes. So I got in 25 years ago pretty much exclusively into new construction, and then he went into the Kansas City market area where they had their own realtors that represented the subdivisions, and so then I just kind of went on to do some resale stuff. And then within the past probably 15 years, actually since 2008, kind of got in with some builders, and then it really have kind of been doing mostly new construction since. So I've just kind of been immersed in the new construction world for most of the time I've been in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So what are some first steps someone should take when they're even considering new construction?
I think it's important for people to go to open houses, to go look to see what the builders are building, look at the quality, look at the floor plans, look at the location. I think is probably step number one. Familiarize yourself with what's going on in your community.
Are all the builders the same?
All builders are not created equal. But the flip side of that is neither are all buyers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have entry-level builders and entry-level buyers, and you have high-end builders and high-end buyers. So there's usually someone for everyone that fits everyone's price point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's why it's important to go and look, because you realize that pretty quickly on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what should buyers look for in a builder, and what questions should they ask?
So there's different kinds of builders, right? There's builders that they're the only person in their company and you deal with just them. And then there's builders that have a team of people behind them. So it depends. Do you want a one-on-one relationship with the person you're working with and they're just doing your house? Do you want a team of people that have a designer and an architect and all kinds of different, people that go along with their process? References are huge. Word of mouth is huge. I mean, we live in kind of a small community, so it's really easy to find out about different builders just by asking around. Do they have their own floor plans, or do you have to provide your own floor plan? Where are they building at? Do they build out in the country because you have land out in the country, or are they not going out in the country? So I think all of those things are important. How long they've been in the business, and financing is a huge one.
Yeah.
Some builders finance their own projects. Some builders do not. And so you have to go and you have to get the construction loan and you are financing it all the way through. So that's key to a lot of people.
Yeah. And some builders prefer not to talk to customers, and you don't ever talk to them or see them,
Right.
too.
I mean, some you have everybody's different.
Yeah.
Just like we in our industry, everybody does business a different way.
Yep.
So you just have to find out who does business the way you feel comfortable doing business.
Absolutely.
So we can go back to that other question that I skipped over. How does the process of buying a new construction home differ from just purchasing an existing home?
It really doesn't. I mean, if you're going to buy a new construction home, it's pretty much the same as just buying a home that was on the market. the thing that I say about new construction, though, is if you write an offer on a new construction home and you get your offer accepted, 99.9% of the time that house is closing. It's not failing over inspections, right? Where a lot of times we get our buyers into houses, they make offers, they're excited about it, they get inspections done, and there's 20 things wrong with the house, and they can't live with it, and they back out. Usually, when a new construction house goes under contract, it's closing. But really, there's no difference of buying a new house sitting on the ground completed versus something that was pre-existing.
And you kind of spoke to the fact that, it's not going to be a deal breaker when, you have inspections. Are there inspections that are done on new construction homes?
It's your right to do inspections always. And I would say probably at this point, I would say 60 to 70% of people do inspections. Inspectors don't necessarily know what the current codes are. So inspectors are notorious for calling out things that are wrong, but indeed they're built to code. And so it's a little,
Sometimes inspectors are trained to inspect homes that are a little bit older in age, where they're not meeting the top standards that the city is currently actively passing at that moment. And those are those are up and down. And it can change in 2 weeks. And so if you're not familiar with that type of process, then it's a little bit challenging, and things get called out that aren't what the builder
get called out.
Yes.
And however, I think that usually our agents here and usually the clientele too is also very receptive to feedback of that's not code.
Yes.
We can't put a GFCI there where you just told us to put one because the city won't pass it. So I think that while I'm all for people doing inspections, right? How do you know if shingles didn't blow off the roof in a storm? So I think that there's a time and a place. I think people just have to understand that sometimes inspectors will call things out that
don't fit.
And I've never had a problem with any buyer throwing their hands up and saying, fine, I'm not buying this house. Usually it's explainable. The builder or the project manager will explain why that it is done the way that it is, and everybody moves on. So
it's just an education process.
Right.
Yeah. Which new construction is an education process.
Very much so. It is a niche market. And I think niche realtors for those niche markets are ideal because it's not your standard every day. It's like the foreclosure industry. It's not that we all can't do it. There's things to know, and it's definitely a different process than selling a resale home.
Yeah. It would definitely be important to, when you're interviewing realtors and you are interested in new construction, to ask those questions and make sure that they have that experience and know what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So can you explain the process between a custom home and a spec home, and which one is more common?
So a spec home is where the builder starts a home from the start without a buyer in mind. Their intention is to start that home, build that home, and then put that home on the market to the general public towards the end of the process. And sometimes, they will maybe if a buyer comes in and there's 60 days left until closing, and they don't like the color of the front door, the builder might repaint the color of that front door. But a spec home is really intended for no one else to be involved in that process except for the builder. A custom is the exact opposite, right? There's a buyer from the very start. They get to choose whatever the builder allows them to choose through the process. There's usually money involved up front for that, which I think is people don't realize, and it's usually a substantial amount of money as well, right? If you're choosing everything that you want for that home, that is your home.
Someone else might not like those choices, and they might not be able to sell it down the road.
They have to have something to back that up. You got to put your money where your mouth is, and it usually requires quite a bit of money down for you to customize. Specs used to be the most common thing I think that we did. Now that there are so few lots left, and interest rates are high, builders aren't starting a lot of spec homes, not like they were back in 2021 when rates were low, because it cost them a lot of money to hold on to those. So now we see, personally, in what I'm doing, I see more custom homes than I do spec homes. Also, too, most of the buyers that I see now are empty nesters. So they're wanting to build places that they can age in place. And so it's important for them to be able to choose exactly what they want to do. So the current time, I would say we do probably more customs than we do specs.
So kind of a fun question. Do you prefer doing spec or custom homes? And when you do custom homes, do you ever pick out things where you're like, oh, I kind of like that? Like,
Yeah, so it depends on the builder that you're working for. The custom home process is a long process. I mean, it can be a year long, and that's not uncommon
or
for it
longer.
to be right. To be I mean, right, a year is probably on the short side of things, probably. And it is fun to go and make the selections and sit down with the designer and go to the tile store and the lighting store and all those kinds of things. A spec home, you're not really involved. As a realtor, you're not involved in that much, right? I go by once a week. I look at the progress just to kind of see what's happening, see, if somebody calls me, what I can talk about that is coming up and what stage it's in when I think it's going to be done. But it's a little bit more hands-off for me versus a custom, which is, I mean, you're spending a lot of your best friends by the time it's over.
Yes,
best friends.
There's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
Can you kind of talk about the 1-year warranty that is offered on new construction homes?
So the Lawrence Home Builders Association has their kind of standard 1-year builder warranty form. I think builders a lot of times here locally, some builders go above and beyond to take care of people and things that aren't necessarily warranty worthy. But I think the 1-year warranty is just a nice thing to have for, it's kind of a hands-off approach where, you just know you're not going to have to do anything for a year. And yeah, some are better than others. And I think it's a nice thing to have just to not have to worry.
Well, and that kind of plays into the inspection question when we were discussing that as far as, getting a inspection on a new construction home. Well, you're going to have that 1-year warranty. So if things do come up, you're going to have them come out and be able to help you through that process of fixing things and figuring out what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always a backup, and there's always somebody there to take care of you.
So we kind of touched on this a little bit with the timeline and talking about how it short end can be a year. But can you explain the process and the timeline for a new construction project and just key milestones throughout?
So, it depends. Are you building a 1,550 square foot slab home, or are you building a 6,000 square foot home, with all custom woodwork? I would say on average, I mean, for kind of what we do and the price point that we're typically in, a slab home can take 5 to 7 months, depending on the time of year, right? I mean, if you just signed a contract, we're probably not doing anything for a while. Permitting is taking forever in the city of Lawrence, which is just, I am baffled since we have so few permits pulled as to why that is taking so long, but that slows down the process. The weather slows down the process. So, I would say average time is 5 to 7 months, just depending on weather. For a slab home, a home on a basement is probably, 9 to 12 months, also to kind of depending on the time of year and the size of the home. Once they get the home boxed in, as I call it, right? The roof is on, the walls are up. Everybody can do their work inside of a shell. Then they can lay out a pretty good timeline. And at that point, moving forward, you've got a pretty good idea within, 30 days as to when your closing is going to be on that. So that the important thing is getting that shell up, getting it boxed in so that now everybody can function.
Weather is no longer
exactly.
a factor.
You don't have to worry about the snow, the rain, the cold, whatever. Yeah. You're boxed in. So after that, that's the first major. I mean, obviously, if you're going to do a basement, getting your foundation in the ground is big. But once it gets boxed in, after that, I would all the trades get in there. My key and kind of what I look for is when it goes to trim stage. So when the trim carpenters are in there and they're hanging the doors and they're laying the base board, for me, that's like we're rounding third base, right? Like we're coming in onto the home stretch, and it's not going to be that. It starts to get exciting. You can start to feel and see what it's going to be. So for me, I look for that. When are the trim guys there?
Thursdays.
Yeah, because that's I'm on third and we're almost there now.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's awesome. So what are the most common upgrades or customizations that buyers request?
Flooring, I think solid surface flooring throughout the house has kind of become a big deal, whether that be hardwood floors, a laminate flooring. That's
rather than carpet.
One, because we work with a lot of people that are getting to somewhere where they can age in place, they're right sizing. So that ends up kind of being a big deal. We're seeing a lot of screened in patios and decks, places that people can get to, or even 3 or 4 seasons rooms. If you're doing a slab home that's 1,600 square feet and you're downsizing from something that's 3,000 square feet, having that extra little living space that is, heated and cooled becomes a big, it becomes really important, because if you want to watch TV, away from somebody else, or you want to read a book, you have somewhere to go. So that seems to be pretty popular. It's real easy to spend a lot of money on lights. I think don't go to the lighting store if you can at all help it, because somehow you'll walk out spending a lot of money. But, I think it depends too, once again, on the builder that you're working with and what they're providing up front. Some builders provide more up front than others provide. So I think it just depends on who you're working with.
Yeah. When you were talking about lights, I actually just went to an open house last weekend. It wasn't new construction, but they had some really cool light fixtures. I even took pictures of it. I was like, these are awesome. So imagine walking to a light store and then looking around, you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. I haven't seen that before. Anything
cool costs money. That's what I say.
Yeah.
If it looks great, it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
And it adds up quick.
Yeah.
It does add up quick. Oh my gosh. So how do you navigate financing for new construction homes with the lender and kind of going through that process?
So some builders do things differently. So if you're just buying a spec home and it's at the end of the process, you're gonna do just like you were. It's no different from a resale home. You're gonna put an offer in on it. You're closing when it's done, and you're getting financing at the end, just like you would any other home. It's no different. If you're building from the ground up, it depends on the builder that you use. Some builders will finance that for you. And carry the construction loan for you and carry the insurance till the very end of the process, and then you're going to close on the very end. Now, of course, that means, as we talked about earlier, money out of your pocket, right, to start with. If you want to make that house yours, the builder's going to tell you what that amount of money is. It could be, and it's usually non-refundable money as well, right? This is your baby. This is your thing. Somebody might not like your pink cabinets and your purple walls. So it's
that's a real thing.
Yeah, it's usually non-refundable money in the beginning. The builder makes the call into what that is, and then they will carry the loan and you'll close on it at the end. Now, some people, we just had a lady that financed her own. She had cash. It was cheaper for her to carry everything and pay it out of pocket than it was, for the builder to go to the bank and have to pay 8% on the loan along the way. So she just financed everything along the way, wrote the checks on a monthly basis when the builder would send her the invoice, and that was that. So, it just depends on what that builder will require of you.
That makes sense.
So are you seeing, because I know for a while building supplies were kind of a lot, and some of the jobs that I had heard of, again, correct me if I'm wrong, were going over budget. Are you still kind of seeing that in the market, or?
The builders that I work with currently, I don't know about other areas. We're not seeing those massive flex of materials like we were before. The builders that I have worked with and the buyers that I have helped buy new construction are locked in on a price.
Yeah.
So you start your process at the beginning. You pick all of your stuff that you want, all of your finishes. Everything is tallied up. You come up with a contract price. The price is the price. Now, there'll be, if you're digging a basement and you hit rock, well, there's probably a clause in there for, if we hit rock, you're going to have to pay for that. But as far as selections that, if you picked it, that's the price is the price is the price most of the time. And that's currently happening because we're not seeing those spikes in materials like we were back in 2020 when things were going through the roof and there were clauses in there
that quoted for just a period of time versus
exactly.
to the end.
We're not seeing that right now.
Yeah.
We're not seeing that.
Because I know that's probably also another misconception that has popped up too, is that people are like, well, is this actually the price that I'm going to have to pay? Will I actually be able to afford this at the end?
Right,
sort of
like and base prices and stuff like that. For what we see here in our market area, most everything is included. Now, I know you'll go into different communities. You'll go into a community in Johnson County, and you'll walk into their model home, and the base price is $650, but that house is for sale for $795 because they put in upgraded countertops and did all this stuff. Here in our market area, it's pretty much what it is. There's not going to be a whole lot of flexing between, unless you go in and you make the house, 1,000 square feet bigger, or you want your hardwood floors throughout. But most of the time, in the stuff that we have here, you walk in, you see the house, you see the price. You're probably not spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars more.
So on a spec home that's already built and finished, would you say that there's negotiations that are going on? Say it's listed for $550. Do you think a buyer can come in at $525, or do you think it's pretty tight that they need to come in at that $550?
I'm not seeing at this time builders giving money like that.
Yeah.
And especially we're coming into the spring market now.
Yeah.
So that's probably not going to happen. In the middle of winter, like I have a home currently and we're offering a $10,000 builder incentive on it till the end of this month. And after the end of this month, we're going to start to pick up, and that thing is going to sell. So, the builders will offer some incentives to get some product moved during the winter so that they can start something new, or they don't have to hang on to it. But, in the spring market, usually the price is the price. I think you have a little bit more flexibility asking the builder to buy you a refrigerator or pay for some blinds. Fence
well,
probably
you say
not
that,
happening.
so our refrigerator's not included?
It depends on the price point. When you have an entry-level price point home, they try to keep those prices down. So there's not a lot of bells and whistles. Refrigerators are one of them that are usually not included. Now you start to get up into, homes that are mid-price point, and the refrigerators will start to be included. But for they're hitting that price to be able to find the buyer is the most important thing. And so depending on where you're at, you're probably not getting a sprinkler system. Yeah. You're probably not getting sod. You're getting seed because, we're trying to bring it in under $400,000 so that somebody, so that we have a buyer for it versus going over $400,000 and you have no buyer. So, I think it depends on the price point more than anything.
Yeah. Well, are there any pitfalls buyers should be aware of during the building process?
I think the number one thing that I see go awry when there's a buyer in place for a long period of time during that process is the buyer showing up to the job site, having a conversation with someone. Maybe it was the concrete guy, maybe it was the project manager, maybe it was the builder himself. And, they make a comment such as, I don't want a square patio. I want some curves in it. I want it to look pretty. And they say, okay. And everybody walks away and nobody remembers that conversation was had. And so I think the biggest thing is when people are showing up to job sites and having conversations and their representation, their realtor isn't there, nobody heard it, is following up with an email. By the way, remember we talked about, or I met your concrete guy out there. This is what I told him. Putting something in writing, and that's where your realtor comes into play. You don't go without your realtor so that somebody else heard this conversation and you didn't pull this out of thin air. But if nobody else was there, I think just following up with a short little email or a text or however it is you communicate with your builder that, hey, just a reminder, we talked about this. I do want this because no one remembers.
Well, and it can change pricing too. If a buyer shows up and says, I want that rounded patio, well, that might have added $400 and that's coming out of your pocket, not the builder's.
Right. And the guy who was setting up the forms might say, okay, sure. He doesn't, he doesn't know, he doesn't care.
He gets paid. At the end of the day, he's getting paid. So he doesn't, he's going to do it.
Right. So the the follow up with something in writing stating that, this is what we discussed. I feel like that's probably the most common thing that I see. And also too, just making sure what is in that base price.
Yeah.
Was your refrigerator in there? Or are you shocked and you came down to the end and there's no refrigerator delivered with your appliance and you had no idea? Yeah. So just making sure that you know what's in your contract and what's on that floor plan.
Definitely.
So at what point should somebody contact a realtor when getting into new construction, whether it's a spec home or a build or anything like that?
I think the best thing is right away. If you feel like this is something that you're interested in doing, realtors know a lot of people. They know a lot of builders. They know maybe a lot that could be for sale but is not for sale. They can introduce you to many different builders so that you can have meetings with them so that you can decide who it is that you hit off with best. They can go out on the search for the land, for the lots, for whatever it is that you might need. And they can also tell you what is normal practice. If is this something that you should be doing or not? Did this builder ask you to do something that is kind of unheard of? I mean, it's the voice of reason. We see it day in and day out. It's if you have a medical problem, you go to a professional right off the bat. You don't pull up WebMD and try to self-diagnose. Say, go with a professional. Start from the beginning. Go till the end. It's your best bet.
Yeah.
Well, you have someone advocating for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, do we want to get into our little fact or fiction segment, or do we have any other questions, Campbell?
I don't know. Is there anything else you want to add, Joy, as far as new construction?
I don't think so. We're down. If you think that you are interested in new construction in Lawrence, I mean, we're down to just a handful of lots left. It's unfortunate what has happened. Builders have gone to other cities. They've gone to other areas. Buyers then have to follow. If you want product, you've got to go where the product is at, and it's just not here. So we had somebody that we spoke with in the fall that came back for a follow-up appointment last week, and there's no lots available for that person to build on. There was only 2 or 3 left in the fall, and now those are gone. So, hopefully the city can get on the right track and get it happening.
I was going to say, so I know there aren't very many lots available, but we're more focused now on building within the city limits. And have you been seeing? Is that correct? Am I saying that? So
to try to use up the infill lots. I think that's the route that the city was. Yeah, how they wanted to go.
But that makes it difficult because there's limited lots, and some lots you can only build a slab home. There's not the option to do a basement, and it just.
And I mean, it's a great thought, but like I lived in Baldwin City 10 years ago, and there was an empty lot next to me, and I bought it. And why did I buy it? Because I didn't want anybody to build next to me. I wanted the room. I'm not selling that. I'm not selling that lot. Just because it's there does not mean that it is available. So while it's great in theory, I don't think that it's probably come to fruition. Yeah. Most people own those lots for a reason, because they don't want something there.
Yeah.
Well, and they're not annexing a lot of land into the city limits, which
then causes supply and demand issues. So you want to know why everything is high? Well, that's because there's nothing to choose from. So, and I think that, just my personal opinion is new construction kind of reminds me of a car, right? Like, not everybody can afford a brand new car. Yeah. And not everybody can afford a brand new house. But if you can, you vacate your pre-owned to go to the new, and therefore that opens up more inventory. And if you can't vacate to move up anywhere, then nothing else becomes available. So is new construction affordable? I mean, it's not price per square foot. It's not the most affordable thing out there, but it is for some. It's not for all, but it is for some. And when you move there, you're probably vacating something else along the way to open up for that middle, to open up that middle sector that lets people start to move back and forth. So it's, I think one of your questions too is something about price of new construction. It is higher than a resale home. But the flip side of that too is, you're probably going to be in there for 8 years before you really have to spend any money on anything.
Yeah, you're not replacing a roof
or an air conditioner. Yeah. Right. So pretty much it is what it is. Your payment is your payment.
Yep.
You don't have to. You're not going to take on the average. I think that it costs the average homeowner $3,500 a year to maintain their home. Well, you're not going to have that because there really is not much to maintain on new construction. So it kind of it's a wash. It's a larger investment in the beginning, but on a month-to-month or year-to-year basis, you're not going to be putting in the money that other people are if they purchase a home that's 20 years old.
Yeah. Definitely.
So that was our first fact or fiction section. Was buying a new construction home is more expensive than buying a pre-existing home. So let's do the second one.
Okay.
Builders typically include all upgrades in the base price.
That is. I guess it depends, right? It's if you're buying a spec home, you see what's there, that the price is the price. It depends on what kind of upgrades you want. So are they included? depends on what you want. Probably not, you know?
Yeah.
If you want a screened-in patio, that probably was not included.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And working with somebody that knows those different nuances and to look at those things is important.
Right, to point those things out, yeah.
And buyers have no say in the layout or design of their new home.
Well, once again, if you're buying a spec
Yeah.
home, it is what it is. You know, if you're buying a custom home, I think it depends. You know, do you just have a little bit of money that you can put down and that's all you have, but you really want this home? Well, the builder might do it for you, but they're not, you know, they're not painting your walls pink and they're not moving, you know, the master bathroom around to the way you want it. You know, a lot of it is just kind of money driven. Do you have the money to back up what you want? And what's the builder's, you know, situation? Are they, you know, is this the only project they have going on so they can babysit it and they don't mind? I think that's a question that's probably more specific, you know, for the builder, right?
Yeah.
Each situation.
Yeah.
Well, leave us with this. What is your favorite thing that you've seen go into a new build?
It's a big question, isn't it?
I know.
So many homes.
I just find it so intriguing how quickly the trends change and how, you know, what was once really popular 2 years ago that you start not to see a whole lot of it now. So I find it just fascinating how the trends, and then when you do your own home, you try to do what you like, but you try not to do anything too trendy because now you have to see it all the time. That the tile that I put in my bathroom 2 years ago, nobody's putting it in anymore. So right, it's that constant in your own home. Then you think you have to do new things all the time because something new came out. I'm loving all the gold. I love all the gold fixtures that are that are now popular. I like it. I mean, I don't like the brassy brass that you know happened back in the late 90s, but I'm loving all of the gold, and I'm loving that we're going back to kind of warmer neutrals, and we're kind of getting more away from the grays and kind of going more taupes and kind of brown is coming back.
Browns are.
I haven't seen that browns have
and
become
green.
more popular.
Green is huge.
Yeah.
And I love green. So
Mm-hmm.
I love
You're
seeing
wearing
all the
like a green.
Right, right. Yeah, I love just seeing
green.
all the new trends is fun.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for coming.
Of
We
course,
really
thanks for having me.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
thank you to the Lawrence Public Library. But
I had no idea this existed, but it's
yeah,
incredible.
It's awesome. Well, signing out.
Thanks for joining us on Lawrence Real and Local, Keeping It Real podcast. We appreciate our guests taking the time to join us. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review if you've enjoyed today's episode.
For more information, please visit us on the web at www.lawrencerealtor.com. And remember, whether you are buying, selling, or simply dreaming of your future home, we're here to help. Until next time, keep it real
And happy house hunting.